Hello, everyone. So today I will be giving a seminar. The title is called What's for Dinner? Cooking for One. And my name is Hannah Oshai. I'm a dietetic intern from the University of Massachusetts. So a brief overview of the seminar. I will be going over how to make balanced meals, going over how much should we eat. So that has to do with portion sizes versus serving sizes versus the recommended daily serving. So I'll go through those terms and define them. And then we'll run through some grocery shopping tips when we're cooking for one or two, food storage and cooking tips, and then hand washing and food safety. And I'll also have a couple of resources at the end, and I'll explain that later. So let's begin. First, what makes a balanced meal? So a balanced meal should really include all of these things listed. So carbohydrates, vegetables and or fruits, proteins, and healthy fats. And the benefit of creating balanced meals and creating a balanced diet are it will reduce our risk of chronic disease, increase our energy, regulate blood sugar, improve mood and well-being, and keep us feeling more satisfied. So I always like to say, when in doubt, use the MyPlate method. So the MyPlate method is a guideline created by the USDA. It's this plate visual that you see right here. So when we're at home or at a restaurant or wherever, and we're building our meal, we want to kind of break up the plate into different food groups. And this way it ensures that we are meeting our nutrition recommendations and we're getting enough nutrition throughout the day. So the MyPlate method works that half of the plate should be fruits and vegetables. Not every meal is going to include fruit, but most meals should definitely include half of the plate vegetables. Sometimes it could be a mix of fruit and vegetables. Sometimes it might just be fruit. Sometimes it might just be vegetables. A quarter of the plate here in orange, that's going to be grains. And we're going to want to try and do half of our daily grains as whole grains. So sometimes our grains could be rice, but sometimes our grains should be things like brown rice, which is a whole grain. And then a quarter of our plate, which is the purple part, should be protein foods. And for a more balanced diet, we should be aiming towards eating more lean protein foods rather than high fat, high calorie protein foods. And then the little dairy cup up here. So that tells us that with meals, we should have about 1 cup of low fat dairy. If you don't eat dairy, you could also do a fortified dairy alternative. Just make sure that it's fortified with calcium and vitamin D. So I just wanted to break down these groups a little bit more and just kind of give you examples of what might go in each plate. So when it comes to fruits and vegetables, this could look like a fruit salad, cooked greens or collard greens, cooked collard greens or kale, roasted root vegetables, steamed broccoli and carrots, mixed green salad with cucumbers and apples, sauteed peppers and onions, baked potato or squash. And as I mentioned before, this could be a mix of different types of foods like that, or it could be one kind of type of vegetable. It's up to you. We can really have fun with our meals and experiment, try new things out. So moving on to proteins. Yeah. Oh, okay. We skipped grains. So moving on to grains. So grains are going to be things like brown or white rice, quinoa, barley, whole wheat bread or white bread, pasta or whole wheat pasta, tortillas like corn tortillas or flour tortillas, and oatmeals. So all of these foods would be in the grain group. Some of them are whole grain, some of them aren't. So a white pasta wouldn't be a whole grain, but a whole wheat pasta would be a whole grain. So we want to have a mix of both whole grain and not whole grain. And then protein foods. So I have a few protein options that could fit into this MyPlate. So baked salmon or trout, a grilled chicken breast, 3 ounces of steak, baked tofu, beans, peas, and lentils. So beans, peas, and lentils can count as a vegetable, but they can also count as a protein food because they are high in protein. And then for the dairy category, so our serving of dairy could come from milk, cheese, yogurt, fortified soy milk are another fortified non-dairy product. Sometimes there are fortified non-dairy yogurts that can also be a good source of calcium and vitamin D, but you just want to check that things are fortified. So this section is excluding cream cheese, sour cream, cream, and butter. So cream cheese, sour cream, cream, and butter are high calories and low nutrition. So they don't have enough calcium or vitamin D and stuff in them to be considered a serving of dairy. So we just want to not include those. They could be considered a fat serving. So I also just wanted to go over healthy fats real quick. So as you can see on the MyPlate visual, they do not include a visual of healthy fats. That's kind of like implied that there would be healthy fats. You know, you might have a little olive oil on your salad or in your protein, or your protein could also be things like nuts. Nuts have protein and healthy fat. Also like salmon would be healthy fat and protein, etc. So let me just list to you the healthy fats. So healthy fats are things like plant oils, like olive, canola, sunflower oil, avocados, soy products like tofu and tempeh, seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp hearts, nuts. As you can see in the picture, we got hazelnuts, cashews, pecans. Those are all good sources of fat, and fatty fish like salmon. So now we're going to move on to how much should I eat. So we're going to talk about how much do we actually need to eat per day. What does a serving of different foods look like? So serving sizes versus portion sizes. So a serving size on a package of food is the standard amount of food customarily consumed in one sitting. So if a serving size is 1 cup, that is what the food manufacturer has determined is what most people or the average person is going to eat in one sitting of that food. So this is not necessarily the amount that you should consume. It's more so an estimate about what the food manufacturer thinks a person is going to eat. So I want to clear that up. Next, we'll move on to what is a serving. So a serving can also refer to the recommended daily amount of a food group you should consume to help meet nutrient needs. So for example, eat 2 cups of vegetables per day, or eat, 5 servings of fruit per day. Serving in that sense is usually the recommendation by the USDA for how much of a food group you should eat per day to meet nutrition goals. And then portion size. So portion size is how much of a food you are served or how much you eat. So a portion can vary from person to person, from meal to meal. At a restaurant, for example, a portion of pasta might be a lot larger than a portion of pasta at home. So portion size doesn't really have it's not a recommendation, basically. It's just the amount you're served, or the amount you put on your plate, or the amount you eat. So let's talk about servings a little bit more. So we're going to talk about servings in the context that this is the recommended amount of a food group you should eat. So according to the National Institute of Aging, adults 50 and older should choose foods from the following groups, and listed next to the food is the recommended serving size to consume per day to meet nutrient needs. So let's go over this. So for vegetables, it's recommended that you eat 2 to 3 cups per day. Fruits are 1.5 to 2 cups per day. Grains are 5 to 8 ounces per day. Dairy is 3 cups, fat-free or low-fat dairy per day. Protein foods, 5 to 6.5 ounces per day. And oils, we should be having 5 to 7 teaspoons of oil per day. So what does that look like? So we're going to use this hand method to give you a visual of what different servings look like. Excuse me, these might be helpful if you don't have a measuring cup or if you're at a restaurant. If you can remember the different servings on the hand, and we'll go over them. So first is the average fist size. I'm making a fist right here. So that measures about 1 cup. So if you have an average size hand, this is about 1 cup of food. So this is the appropriate portion of raw or cooked vegetables and whole fruit, for example. And then a small scooped handful measures about 1/2 cup. So this equals about 1 ounce of grains. So if you are eating pasta, rice, oatmeal, things like that, about a scoop handful is a proper serving. And then the palm of the hand measures about 3 ounces. So an appropriate serving of fish, chicken, beef, or other meats would be 3 ounces. So about the size of the palm of your hand. And the average size of a thumb measures about 1 tablespoon. So that is equal to about the appropriate amount of peanut butter or nut butter. And the tip of the pointer finger to the first joint, so that's just this little part right here, that is about a teaspoon, and it's the appropriate portion of fats like oil or butter. Now we're going to move right along to grocery shopping tips. So I want to give some smart shopping tips. The first one is to always shop with a grocery list and plan meals for the week ahead of time. Take inventory before you go shopping. So this means if you have leftover grains, say you have some leftover pasta or rice, leftover produce, herbs, or different types of proteins, try planning new recipes around those items to use them up. And the third tip is to keep your pantry stocked with an assortment of different dried grains and carbohydrates. So this could include cereals, granola, canned and dried beans, pastas, rice, oatmeal. Those are always good to have on hand because they have a long shelf life, and we can always throw a recipe together with pasta or rice, beans. So the second, sorry, not the second. So continuing on with the smart shopping tips, another one is to choose frozen fruits and vegetables when you can. So vegetables like peas, carrots, spinach, peppers, onions, and corn hold up really well in the freezer and can be just an easy way to add more nutrition to your favorite dishes. You can always add frozen vegetables to things like stews, chili, soups, casseroles, pasta dishes. They're often more affordable than fresh and they last a long time. Frozen fruit like berries also last a really long time in the freezer and can be added to things like oatmeal smoothies, desserts, different kinds of breakfast foods. So frozen fruits and vegetables are often more affordable and they last much longer than fresh produce. So that's a bonus. Less food waste might come out of you buying some things frozen. They're also picked at the peak of freshness. So that means they're actually very high in vitamins and mineral content. So here are some money saving tips. Ask stores and restaurants if they offer a senior discount or senior loyalty, like a store card. Use coupons when you can. Buy store brands rather than name brands. So oftentimes the store brand and the name brand are basically the same product. The store brand is just going to be cheaper. Excuse me. So the next money saving tip is to focus on economical fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, oranges, cabbage, sweet potatoes, gold potatoes, russet potatoes, dark leafy greens like broccoli, kale, collard greens, green peppers, and regular whole carrots. So these vegetables listed here tend to be more affordable. They're usually have a steadier price all throughout the season. They don't really like fluctuate because they're very popular items. They're more affordable than other things that are highly perishable, like berries and avocados and such. So buy and cook only what you need. So really try to make lists, try to keep track of your inventory, plan ahead with the recipes and the meal planning. Avoid impulse buying and loading up on too many snack foods. So snack foods and convenience foods are going to be a lot more expensive because the work has been done. They're all like processed and stuff. So someone went through the process of baking them and cutting them and doing different things to them. So that does increase the price, even though it increases the convenience, but it can also increase the price. And buying a lot of pre-made, pre-packaged foods can really just rack up your grocery bill. And then, of course, see if you qualify for food assistance programs. So programs like SNAP, the food bank has a program called the Brown Bag Program for seniors, Meals on Wheels. So these are all really good programs that you should take advantage of if you qualify for them. They can help with just money to buy vegetables and fruits, just food in general. The Brown Bag Program at the food bank will give seniors, I think it's 55 and over, a bag of groceries. I think it's either per month or per week. I'm not 100% sure, but I would definitely go to these websites and call these places and see if you qualify. So next we're going to go over food storage and cooking tips. So I wanted to talk about food storage quickly. So we're going to go over 3 popular foods, nutrient-dense foods that many people buy and often do not store properly, so they go bad quicker. So leafy greens is a major one. It happens all the time where you buy a bag of spinach or a bag of salad greens and a few days go by and you haven't used it and you haven't used it, and then you finally go to use it and it's already bad and you have to throw it out. It's really a bummer when that happens. So if we are buying leafy greens that are not like packaged in a container, they should be washed right after you buy them, wrapped in a paper towel, and then sealed in a plastic bag and placed in the fridge. If you're buying a pre-washed and cut lettuce or any type of other green that's already in a plastic container and already washed, all you can do is place a paper towel into the container, put it back in the fridge. So that just helps soak up some of the water. So higher water activity means higher chance that it's going to go bad. So the paper towel really helps to soak up that extra moisture and prevent rotting prematurely. So for potatoes, we want to store potatoes and other root vegetables away from the sunlight in an open bowl or paper bag to increase circulation. We don't want to leave potatoes and other root vegetables in a plastic bag if they come in one, because the plastic can actually trap moisture and make them go bad quicker. And then bananas, I know a lot of people, they'll buy a bushel of bananas, a bunch of bananas, and it goes bad before they can eat them all. It happens. So some tips for bananas is to hang the bananas away from other fruits and vegetables to prevent them from ripening too quickly. So if they are next to other fruits and vegetables, the gases that are released can actually make them go bad quicker. And then if you maybe buy a bunch and you want to keep 2 on the counter, you could keep the rest in the fridge. So refrigerating unripe bananas will help prevent them from ripening as well. And some more cooking tips. So find cookbooks and recipes designed for cooking for singles or couples, depending on your situation. If you have access to the internet, I definitely recommend finding recipes that are already tailored to making like single or 1 or 2 servings. Utilize pre-washed and pre-cut vegetables if your goal is to save time. Use a steamer basket to make quick steamed vegetables. Steaming is a great way to cook a lot of vegetables like broccoli, carrots, squash. So steaming helps trap some of the water-soluble vitamins that might be lost through things like boiling. And opt for salt-free seasonings to reduce sodium intake. So sodium intake is usually pretty high among the average person. So trying out some new salt-free seasonings to add more flavor to dishes without increasing the sodium content. So when we're cooking for 1 or 2 people, we really want to make leftovers and use leftovers in new ways. So leftover chicken or other proteins, for example, can be used the next day in salads or sandwiches. Try to batch cook things like chili and soup and then freeze smaller portions for later. And now we're going to move right along to hand washing and food safety. So here are some food safety facts. So some groups of people are at an increased risk for foodborne illness. So this includes older adults, pregnant women and newborns, people with weak immune systems and chronic illness, including diabetes, kidney disease, and some cancers. And the CDC estimates that 48 million people get sick from foodborne illness each year. So I know everybody knows how to wash their hands, but I just wanted to go over it real quick. So as a reminder, always wash your hands with warm, soapy water for at least 20 seconds before and after handling food. So a really large percentage of food poisoning can actually be eliminated if people wash their hands more when preparing food. So it's really important. And now let's go over food safety tips. So always prep fruits and vegetables and things like that before prepping raw foods like meat. This will help prevent cross-contamination and food-borne illnesses. So keep countertops, cutting boards, and knives clean in between prepping foods. So, if you go from cutting potatoes to cutting chicken, you really should be cleaning everything in between. Rinse fruits and vegetables under cold tap water before preparing or eating. So the FDA recommends that everybody rinse fruits and vegetables under cold water. So they've done research on this, and there's really no need to wash fruits and vegetables with soap and other produce washes. Just simple cold tap water is all you need to wash away dirt and possible other contaminants from fruits and vegetables. Always rinse and clean the lids of cans before opening them, because sometimes dust and other bits of bacteria and stuff can get into the food after you open it with a can opener if you have not cleaned it. So keep meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs away from other food items in the fridge. Put cooked foods in the fridge or freezer within 1 to 2 hours after cooking or buying. If it's a really hot day, for example, like 90 degrees out, you must put it in the fridge or freezer within 1 hour. Never thaw foods on the countertop. So we're always going to thaw foods in the refrigerator or under cold running water. The water has to be cold and it has to be running constantly throughout the thawing process. Or you can also thaw things in the microwave. And always use a food thermometer, so like a meat thermometer, to check that meat is cooked thoroughly. And if you go online, you can find the actual temperatures, and usually on the package, it will say exactly what temperature it needs to be. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the resources. So I already talked about the food assistance programs, so things like Meals on Wheels and SNAP. And then I added a few resources if you're interested. I added a few resources if you're interested here. So One Dish Kitchen, so onedishkitchen.com. I found this website and they have tons of recipes that are either 1 or 2 servings. So it's great if you're cooking for just yourself. MyPlate is also a great website with different recipes and cooking tips. And also the National Institute on Aging is another great resource. It's a website you can go to. It has lots of resources for older adults. So that about wraps it up for Cooking for One. I'm so I'm really happy if you signed on and saw this little webinar, and I hope it was helpful. So thank you.